Redemption is a thing that we see a lot in modern storytelling, especially anime. That dude in a silent voice, Speedwagon from JoJo's, Black Clover's ranking on my anime list. There's just something nice about seeing a bad guy become a not so bad guy. And done the right way, a redemption arc can be absolutely breathtaking. Done the wrong way, they can also be breathtaking, but in a more chronic case of tuberculosis kind of way. But for every half-assed arc, you get something like Vinland Saga, a series that, without a doubt, despite first appearances, is largely about redemption. I haven't quite caught up to the Vinland Saga manga, but having read through just the Farmland Saga arc alone, I can say with complete certainty, this is one of the greatest character developments I've ever seen in an anime. And it's definitely the greatest redemption arc I've ever seen. With just the first appearances from the first season, this character was just an angry, edgy teen in what seemed to be another action battle series. A very well written one that is, but again, just a standard action battle series with a Viking skin. But thinking back to the beginning of the series, what the anime has now transitioned to in the second season isn't a massive shift for the story. This was always what it was meant to be about, and everything between Thor's to now was just a side quest. Except while the main story was essentially Stardew Valley, this quest was more like Doom Eternal. Here's an important fact about a redemption arc. The character needs to have something to be redeemed for. I know, very jaw-dropping stuff. But what this means is that these kinds of arcs are often reserved for side characters, because for the majority of main characters, they're good guys. And the ones that aren't, they're either barely evil enough for the arc to carry any meaning, or they're so evil that even trying to redeem them just seems sorta unjustified. Vinland Saga manages to cram its way perfectly in between these two extremes. And by god does it work. Thorfinn spent the entirety of the first season killing and murdering innocent random people, all for the selfish goal of wanting to kill the man who killed his father, Askeladd. But hot take here, murder's not very good. So by all means, Thorfinn was a bad guy, but being set in a universe with so much death and violence, it's easy to see his actions as just actions, because he's blinded by his rage, and we're blinded by— oh my god, he just dodged that axe! Woo! But it's Askeladd's death that changes the course of the story back to what it was originally about, and Thorfinn is forced to think, what is he gonna live for now? This brings about a change for Thorfinn, a development to be sure, but not quite yet a redemption. We don't see exactly what he does with his revelation immediately after because we get hit with a time skip. But the Thorfinn we see after this is not the Thorfinn we knew before. The plot has become about living a farm life, like in Minecraft, having evolved from being about people fighting each other to the death for greed, like a Minecraft SMP. But instead of house and base building, we only get character building. Okay, that was terrible. Unlike the redemptions and time skips that we see in most other shows, Thorfinn hasn't redeemed himself over the time skip, nor does he do so at any specific turning point. He's just living his life again. Only now, without the constant killing and fighting, he has the time to think about and process what he's actually been doing with his life. The difference between this and the redemption arcs we see in so many other shows is that this arc doesn't serve as the climax to everything else before as a payoff, but instead, everything else before was the setup to an even larger story. A story that tells the journey of a man learning what it means to live for the first time after being surrounded by only death for so long, and eventually, discovering what it is that matters to him in that life. But I think the greatest part about this arc is that we go with Thorfinn on his redemption as well. Having seen the reason for why Thorfinn was like the way he was back in the first season, and seeing him do everything that he did back then from his perspective, it was easy to sympathize with him and become desensitized to everything amongst all the action of the plot, just like he did. But yet again, having the pace of the plot slow down and seeing a more human side not only to Thorfinn but also all these new people he meets during this arc, we change our perspective along with him. And eventually, seeing Thorfinn being able to stand there and take a punch without retaliating is able to somehow become more badass than any fight ever could be. I could go on and on about Vinland Saga, especially this arc, but with how phenomenal this arc turned out, I think I'd better wait until the end of the season, until it's finished airing to avoid spoiling anything major, cause I really don't think I can go any further without doing so, and I think this arc is really one of the greatest I've ever seen in an anime, and I really can't wait to see the rest of it get adapted. So if you haven't checked out Vinland Saga yet, please do yourself a favor and do it. It's good.